Okay, thank you so much for everybody who's here today. This is a press conference to outside of this community in regards to what's been happening in Westgate, Nairobi. So before I continue, I would just like everybody to, you know, just kind of be open-minded and whatnot. And I want to introduce Mohammed Farah.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to make this arrangement. I understand there is a sense of urgency in the wake of international crisis, especially when such crisis has an effect on a community far from the borders of its origin. Now, before I continue, I must say I would like to advise all of us today to be very patient, open-minded, and most importantly, resilient as a community throughout these tough times when fingers are pointed in all directions. What does it mean to be resilient in times such as this? As Somalis, I believe we are the personification of such word. Under the most difficult circumstances in our long history, from civil war to the worst famine that plagued our people, we have overcome and we have prevailed. In light of recent news, we are all aware that Nairobi, Kenya, has felt victim to what can be considered as one of the most tragic attacks against humanity. The numbers of innocent people slain senselessly at the hand of extremist groups are staggering, that left us shocked and disgusted. Al-Shabaab's disregard for human life is nothing new to us. We have witnessed before their ability to slaughter, to stone, and torture innocent people with incomprehensible and fabricated religious justification. As a community, we must constantly assure ourselves that these attempts made by Al-Shabaab and their affiliate entities are acts of desperation. Religious scholars within the community have already denounced their claim to legitimacy in the light of Islam. At this particular point, the veil slowly has been lifting to reveal the true agenda and political intent of this extremist group. We shall no longer be the victims of their terror. We shall no longer let their actions affect our children. And most certainly, we shall not generalize by the actions of few individuals who have tainted the name of the Somali people across the globe, especially here in Minnesota. Since we had first immigrated to the United States, the majority of the Somali people have taken advantage of the civil liberties. With that, we have started businesses, organizations, and made tremendous steps towards public policy in such a short amount of time. We, as a community, have worked too hard to positively contribute to the society, to let any radical organizations like Al-Shabaab perpetuate a negative paradigm. We do not need our children being ostracized nor blacklisted from the opportunities made available mainstream society. We do not need our children to feel subjugated by society because what is portrayed on the news. We do not need more youth to feel marginalized to the point they feel they're not wanted in this great country of ours. And lastly, we do not need our youth falling vulnerable to the recruitment efforts of these groups because of the cancers of generalization. KAJOOG organization is vested in the cause as should the rest of the community be, through active engagement by infusing the arts, education, we must attract more youth to divert from their recruitment. KAJOOG stands in solidarity with the Kenyan ambassador, John Kemu, who we recently visited in our trip to Washington, D.C. a couple of days ago, in the wake of this crisis, and we stand in solidarity with our Kenyan brothers and sisters across the globe. We condemn the senseless. We, along with the community, condemn the senseless, incalculable acts of violence and disregard for human life committed by extremist groups. KAJOOG will relentlessly and diligently provide positive ways through the arts and education to stop youth from succumbing to radical recruitment efforts of these groups. Let's be clear. What we see, we Americans see the effects of what Al-Shabaab does in the media. But let it be known that this is a process, my friends. No one becomes radicalized overnight. There's a lot of underlying issues in the community that makes somebody to become radicalized. What I'm talking about is there's job of development. There are gaps missing in these young folks that empowers them. These gaps, job development, lack of mentorship, these are underlying issues that we must face as a community to combat Al-Shabaab. And not only that, in order to stop Al-Shabaab, we have to empower local entities like KAJOOG to build capacity, not only within Minnesota, but also take our services back to Somalia. So this has to be done collectively. Again, I want to thank all of you for coming, and I also want to say thank you to our community leaders, such as the Somali diplomat Omar Jamal, and also our Bihi as well, who's also a great community leader for us as well. So the other thing that I also want to mention is we have to protect the image of our community. More than 99% of our community members are not, they're law-abiding citizens. We're talking about less than 1% of people that are part of this Al-Shabaab or that has extreme ideologies. That does not convey, these individuals do not convey the images, the rest of us. So please, let's make that be clear, and let's take this matter, this situation very serious. And so, again, I want to thank all of you for coming, and we will be taking questions. I and Abdul.
That was very well put, Mr. Mohammed Farah, Executive Director of KAJOOG. Before we continue, I would like to say a few words. KAJOOG nonprofit express themselves in multiple different forms, whether it be through the arts or just in general. You know, you allow them an opportunity to share with you what's going on in their life. And I think a lot of times when we look at radicalization, we look at it from its final step, which is, you know, the recruitment. And I think if we take a step back and kind of analyze all of the multiple things that go into radicalization, you know, such as the situation at home, the situation within our school systems, and also into the streets as well, we'll have a better depiction of what really goes into the recruitment process. Also, I think it's very important for us to uplift our youth, to empower our youth, and that doesn't just come from an organization. It doesn't come from the Somali community alone. It also comes from, you know, the non-Somali community, government agencies, you know, local agencies and whatnot. We have to develop jobs for our youth. You know, we have to stimulate our community to actually achieve some of the goals that we've come to this country to achieve. So, furthermore, to kind of give you an example of what we do here at this organization as far as the arts go, I would like to call up Abdi Phenomenal to kind of share with you a piece that he's written about this particular matter. So I'll pass it on to Abdi.
Thank you very much. I just want to emphasize what Abdul said. Art really changes everything. And as you know, Somalia is known for its oral traditions, for music, storytelling, poetry, and painting and such. So this piece right here is specifically dedicated to the women, children, and the youth of Somalia who has faced a lot of struggles, and to bring light to it. And Al-Shabaab, of course. We live, we breathe with our wings open, running fast, get caught with our limbs holding. Caught in the sense of our dreams being broken, the youth has no choice but to sell their dreams for a token. And old age is unnoticed, the youth unfocused. Al-Shabaab trying to tell you we'll bring change, but only if you hold this. But I'm holding peace in one hand and freedom on the other. I'm holding peace in one hand and freedom on the other. And besides, what's the difference between galvanizing the bleak and sanitizing the heat, between utilizing the weak and institutionalizing the free? I said, what's the difference between galvanizing the bleak and sanitizing the heat, between utilizing the weak and institutionalizing the free? It's between not being able to see and what is the door of opportunities if you swallowed your own key. In order to stay sane, you have to confide in truth, because truth is woven in the fabrics of the women and the youth. Thank you.
About this video that came out last month, and a lot of people are revisiting the fact that a number of young people left that were documented back in 2008. It appears, though, that there have been some people who have left more recently. Could you address whether you think that the tide has been turned in terms of the numbers of young people leaving, and do you have any idea how many have left in total and how many have left more recently?
My name is Abdul Malik Muhammad. As far as your answer, we cannot answer any question that has to do with anything pertaining to investigation. You would have to ask federal officials, government officials, different entities of the government. Any question that pertains to investigation, whether what happened in Westgate in Nairobi, Kenya, we cannot as an organization answer. But we can answer a question about what we do to prevent youth from being involved in anything. You know, so our activities we could talk about. Because there's a legal aspect to that, so you would have to ask federal officials for that. We cannot answer those questions.
And also, let me just add on to that. As sensitive as the situation is, we have to also pay respect to if there are, you know, if there are any legitimate claims to some of the allegations of these individuals being from Minneapolis. I think first and foremost that we have to pay attention to the sensitivity of the family coming forward and whatnot. As a community, you're right, it's a very tight-knit community, so if these things are true, people would know. But as of now, you know, nothing has surfaced, but we anticipate to find out anything we can find out. So, but when we do, you know, we'll definitely take that we'll take that with care, and process.
What's your name?
Abdul Muhammad.
So, are you with KAJOOG?
Yes.
So what you, Abdul Malik, said a little bit different. Abdul Malik, what I took it to you is, you know, you can't say, but is it true that you just don't know because, you know, there have been no reports?
Yes, quite honestly speaking, I don't think youth are attracted to the idea of Al-Shabaab. You know, Al-Shabaab is a very strategic extremist group. You know, they use things that are attractive to the youth. I don't think the youth are attracted to Al-Shabaab because oftentimes we've, on record, found out that the youth that actually are recruited and go back to Somalia find out it's not really what they imagined. So, in a sense, you know, we have to put ourselves in their shoes as far as Al-Shabaab goes and their recruitment effort through using social media, you know, and basically appealing to the youth in such a way where they can be vulnerable to actually being recruited. As an organization, we must combat that. You know, we must engage as much youth as we can. We must engage more youth than Al-Shabaab can engage, in a sense. So that's the approach that we're taking, but we're taking it. Go ahead.
How do they appeal to? What do they appeal to, and how do you counter?
Right. What I guess makes a child vulnerable to recruitment, there's multiple reasons. You know, it could be reasons that a child maybe does not feel welcome in this country because of, you know, this narrative that's around. You know, they may feel subjugated, they may feel marginalized, you know, they may feel ostracized because of what people are saying in the outside the Somali community. They may not feel welcome in mainstream society, and there's also more reasons such as, you know, they may have failed in school. They may have dropped out. They may have had a struggle with, drug abuse, a criminal record, the household. There's multiple issues, basically, is what I'm saying, that might lead into a child being recruited. And Al-Shabaab, as a terrorist organization, they one second. As a terrorist organization, they're very good at what they do. They tell these children, like, there's a religious, a better life for you, and they use religious justification to basically back their recruitment efforts.
So how do you combat that?
We combat that with education. We combat it with awareness. We, like Muhammad said earlier in the speech, we have to let these kids know that there is no religious backing behind some of the actions of Al-Shabaab. In fact, almost all the actions of Al-Shabaab, are not condoned by the teachings of Islam. And I think that's a fundamental aspect to the first steps of finding a positive solution towards combating the recruitment efforts.
How many kids are you able to provide programs for during the year? And also, there are widespread discrepancies. The U.S. Census only has 32,000 people for the Somali Heritage Year, whereas the real numbers, I think, are almost everybody even higher. Are you able to reach as many kids?
Last year we've engaged about 10,000 youth, but the difficulty we find in the work that we do is capacity. As I think at the end of the day, it's not just a Somali problem, it's also a problem that spreads across to multiple different races and cultures and even other countries as well, as we've seen in regard to what's happened in Kenya. So, unfortunately, no. But we're constantly trying as an if you're familiar with the nonprofit industry, you'll understand that it's a very competitive industry to be in. But at the same time, it's a very vital thing to have within our communities, nonprofit organizations that are working towards the betterment of society and towards a common good. So it only makes sense in the sense to promote those organizations, to further those organizations, but it's tough, considering the economic climate we're in as well. So. No, our programs are not based on applications. We take everybody, we engage everybody. Our programs are 100% free. A few months ago, we took over 40 kids camping to Yellowstone Park, and we don't charge for anything that we do as an organization. So whatever budget that we get, we use it and utilize it to the best of our ability to engage as much youth as we can. Very much so. We do believe it's successful because if you look at it, the most important thing when it comes to issues that are surrounding the community is first uniting the community, opening up dialogue, and those are fundamental aspects to finding solutions towards any issue. And I think in the past, some of the issues that affected this community, our organization has done a great job in addressing them when no other organization or individuals has taken on that challenge. For example, the issue of radicalization first when it was starting, we put on that conference. I'm sure some of you were there too, with your respective media group to document that. But in a sense, yes, we find it to be, some of the things that we do to be successful.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Magacayga waxa waaye Ahmed Xirsi. Waxaan ka mid ahay ururka KAJOOG. Waxaan ahay Director of Community Outreach. Maanta halkan waxaan ku qabanay press conference oo ugu talagalnay Mareykanka miidiyihiisa dawladdiisa shacabka adduunka dhan meel kasta ay joogaan in Soomaalida oo dhan aysan ahayn Al-Shabaab in ay yihiin dad yar oo 1% ka sii yar in ay yihiin waxaan qasaayo oo dadka magaaladan jooga 99.9% ay yihiin dad shaqaysto diintooda dalkooda iyo maaragtay horumarka ay ugu talagaleen ay halkan u yimaadeen wax shaqo aan ku leenahay ma jirto marka waxaan rabnay inaan u sheegno ayaga press conference ahaan intay meelaha wareegi lahaayeen oo qaybsan lahaayeen qof Soomaali iska socday wareysan lahaayeen ay afka wax u gelin lahaayeen xun aan ugu talagalnay inaan ka hadalno taas aan ka joojino dadka meelaha la wareegaya wararka ay qabsanayaan oo aysan ahayn Soomaalida dad xun dad diintooda aaminsan oo Al-Shabaab ka soo horjeeday inaan nahay anaga kulligeen marka taas awgeed ayaan u qabanay arintan waan ku faraxsanahay in news media Mareykanka ugu weynaa ay wada yimaadeen aan insha Allah waxaan rajaynaynaa inay maartay dadkeena faraha ka qaadaan aysan guriyaha ugu tagin aysan dariiqada ku wareysanin moolasha ku wareysanin ay joojiyaan waxaas oo maartay dadka xoog oo maartay si fiican uga hadli kara kaliya inay ka wareystaan arrimahaas ayto sidaas darteed aan u qabanay halkan maanta saa u jeedaan waan ku mahadsanyahay walaalkay Siyaad iyo Somali Channel kulligeen. Assalaamu alaykum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. waxaan isugu nimid press release oo ay sameeyeen KAJOOG. waxaan aad ugu mahad celinayaa horta dhalinyaradan Soomaaliyeed ee mar walba u taagan Soomaalida dhibaatada soo gaarta ama ha ahaato xaq caruureed ama xaq kale ha ahaato. waxaan mar labaad leeyahay image-ka ama maaragtay background-ka Soomaalida laga bixinayo wax run ama ahan. laba cunug ama dhowr cunug oo tagtay Soomaaliya oo dhan ma wada xuma. Soomaali wadankan especially Minnesota waxay ka sameysay qof walba uu og yahay. dadka aan la deganahay oo ajnabigaan way og yihiin anagana waa ognahay. laakiin Soomaalida waxa looga baahan yahay markii wax la soo sheegay inay afka biyo ka buuxsadaan ma aha inay hadlaan. aniga markaan iska soo qaado deeqa ahaan 4 cunug aan haysta oo wada teenager wadankan qaarna ku dhashan qaarna ay wax ku bartaan ayagoo yar yar ay imaadeen haddana ilaa college ay marayaan ma aha inay guri walba al-shabaab ku jirto. al-shabaab waxay u imaataa oo ay maskaxda ka xadaa ilmaha aan hooyadood aysan ka warqabin. ilmahaaga haddaa sii dayso oo iskuul ku sii dayso oo aadan ka warqabin meeshay lug dhigeen iyo cidda la hadashay waxa waaye dhalada biyaha afka ka buuxda haddii aad maaragtay furin oo aadan cabbin waa saas oo kale ilmuhu. ilmaha haddaadan wax u sheegin aadan dhahin iska jira proactive in la hada loo baahan yahay in la dhaho ilmaha dhibaatadii ka dhacday waa la ogaa ilmihii wadankan ayagoo qaarkood ku dhasheen haddana inta la dhoofiyay la dilay waa la ogaa wixii ina soo gaaray inaan isdhigana ma aha. Soomaaliya meesha ka kaca aan meesha ka kacno aan always u ololeyno inaan safe wadanka safe u soo doonay. Soomaali haddaan nahay dhibaatan soo marnay qaxaran soo marnay waan soo qaxnay wadankii aan nabadda u soo doonanay inaan burburino ma aha. ilaahay ha laga baqo.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم magaca محمد أمين أحمد maxaa kamid ah jaaladii Soomaalida Minnesota degan maanta arin qurux badan ah dhalinyaro Soomaali oo wada yar oo maanta Soomaalinimo u istaagay KAJOOG la yiraahdaa raggan in la taageero waay raggan in la garab la siiyo waay anagu Soomaaliin maanta ma la taagana walaalahayna Kenyaanka waa Afrikaanka walaalahayna Afrikaanka in aan leenahay maanta geeridiini waa ka calool xun al-shabaab waa ka hor imaanina anagu midnimo hal Afrikaannimo marka maxaan ku mahad celinayaa ragga KAJOOG iyo waxyaalo ka badan aniga sugo insha Allah xageey haduu Ilaahay mudno in arintan ka hor imaano insha Allah siyaad baan tusi doonaa qalabka iyo nidaamka dadkana ka hor imaan lahayd internetka ilmahena ku gaadaan Facebook ilmahena ku gaadaan Twitter ilmahena ku gaadaan ma ogolaanin hadda kadib meelahaas kullu wala dagaaltameena magacayga Maxamed Amiin Axmed maasani
waxaan u mahad celinayaa dhalinyarada Soomaaliyeed runtii oo hawl weyn maanta halkan ka qabtay ayagoo isku yimid cambaarayna wixii Kenya ka dhacay arintaas meel cad ka istaagay una tacsiido dadkii dhibka soo gaaray Kenya sidaa darteed waxaan rabaa xataa dadka inaan u sheego dawladda Soomaaliya arintan inay aad uga xumaatay madaxweynaha inuu tacsi u diray dadka shacabka Kenya inuu madaxweynaha Soomaaliya Xasan Sheekh inuu wacay madaxweynaha Kenya uga tacsiyay waana ka xunahay arintaas meesha ka dhacday nimanka arintan sheegtana inay Soomaaliya muddo dhib ku hayeen dhibkoodii Soomaaliya hor u soo arkeen marka waxaan rajaynaynaa in dawladda Kenya iyo dawladda Soomaaliya isku kaashadaan wax ka qabadka waxaamahan oo kale inaysan dhicin mar labaad waxaan ku soo celinayaa madaxweynaha Soomaaliya uu tacsiyay dhibaatada meesha ka dhacday madaxweynaha uu la hadlay Kenya dawladda Soomaaliya arintan aad bay uga xun tahay ummadda Soomaaliyeed way ka xun yihiin waxaan rajaynaynaa wixii dhibkan geystay in sida ugu dhaqsaha badan wax looga qabto ummadda Soomaaliyeed dhibkay ku hayna laga saaro waa maasantiin